ASP.NET Design web solutions. We present different technologies to enhance such a presentation. All what it concerns is to design a well-designed service over the ASP.NET framework. Technology we are going to expand today, actually using presenting a new technology, which is the LinQ. It is a sort of a new syntax that helps us actually deal with the interconnection, build a better interconnection from the front end, between the front end solutions and the back end solutions. This is a new feature, this is a new technology. It's not a programming language, it's a sort of a syntax to follow in order to, it's a technology that enhances the interoperability between the two parties. We saw enough technologies, yes, this is for sure, but this is a new one, and we will see some enhancements via which we may decide to follow this technology, not the others. You may say, actually, we are seeing technologies to interconnect and to interoperate. Yes, for sure, because they are complementary in sense of you may use this or that based on the need of your project in question. You cannot decide that you are going to use one of the technologies once for all. If you are trying to make a qualitative design to your solutions, if you are trying just to build an interconnection, that's it. Just you think about the first one, you understand and you are digesting clearly. Otherwise, if you are talking about quality of design and quality of service, you have to think of the better technology. The better technology actually is based on different criteria, considering the time, considering the size of the code and memory, and so on. So there are considerations to take or to tackle. Okay, so now we know that this topic is about designing an interface that plays the role of helping query to pass from the front end interface into to the back end solution or back end, yes, let's say technology or data source. The LinQ, language integrated query. The LinQ is a shortcut for the language integrated query. LinQ, LinQ, LinQ. So L for language, in startup of integrated, Q for query. LinQ, language integrated query. This is actually sort of a syntax, basically works and deals with the .NET solutions, and it is to be built in within the back end source code files, the code behind files. In our case, based on our references and our books, in our book, it is based on the use of the C#, yet it is still valid using the VB, Visual Basic. It is a sort of a uniform syntax that helps us to build, let's say, a link, a library, a function, a method, a procedure to interconnect with the database, the list of database we have, or the data source in general, data sources in general, because not only database they are to be utilized for receive and store data or source from background. Good stuff. This is the simplest and the briefest definition we can give to what is the LinQ. This is structured syntax in the sense of it is not something actually unstructured that it has to be actually built based on the understanding of the developer only. No, it's a structured syntax in the sense of that can be actually respected to be utilized within different platforms. Here, the strength is that it can be unified to be utilized for a C# based solution, as well as for a VB based solution. See what I'm just declaring to you now. This LinQ technology, it is a structured syntax that helps interoperate and interrelate with databases and data sources in background, and it is compatible with C# based solutions in front end, and as well as VB based solutions. C# and VB, they are two complete different programming languages, and they need two different interpreters, two different compilers. They're not the same completely, but the LinQ, the language integrated query, it is compatible enough to work with both. This is the first given. The second given is that the data sources from background, they are not only databases, the data sources in background, they are not only databases. We use the LinQ as standardized interface that deals and is compatible with both architectures, whether we are using the C# as a solution or VB as a solution. And also, the data sources, they are not only databases, absolutely. Database, actually, they are one of the very famous data sources that we refer to store data and to retrieve data, but also collection of objects, like whatever. We may talk about classes, we may talk about instances from classes, we may talk about namespaces, and so on. Are you able to hear me, please? Is my voice hearable to you, please?
Yes.
Yes, great. And also, as well as the XML, we were actually defining the XML as class or last unit. Yeah. So whatever the data source is, the LinQ would be having the chance to interoperate and help retrieve and store both retrieve and store. The LinQ is not only for retrieving, the LinQ is for both retrieving and storing. Retrieving what, storing what? Data, whether to be retrieved from the data source, and here we are having three data sources, whether objects or the databases, or XML, let's say resources, or XML files basically, to retrieve or to store in, to retrieve from those resources, those sources, or to save in those sources or those resources. Means insert and select both. Before I continue, any questions, please?
No.
Okay, we continue. Remember that when we saw yeah, great. Remember that when we defined the technology, the Ajax and the XML and the other gateway, it's not by hazard. The order is to bring your understanding to a better level in the sense of. So we needed the XML and the JavaScript. In the Ajax, briefly, without more details about what is the XML. Then after we define the XML clearly and more deep, because we would have actually the chance to build up solutions using the XML. Then after we talked about the jQuery, which is a sort of a library to be called in order to facilitate the use of the JavaScript without writing much code. We just call the method whenever we need, and it will actually be executed. Here we are seeing actually a sort of a syntax to adopt for all what we saw using the C#, and also it would be actually compatible with the VB.NET. Remember, we are studying the C# as a reference, but this technology is compatible with the VB also, to be run with the VB also, no more no less. So you'll not be required to define a new code or new technology in order to implement a LinQ solution. A LinQ solution means an interface to help connect to a data source. Let's have a look to a graph. We have actually a front-end solution, whatever the front-end solution is, and we have a back-end data sources. The LinQ comes in between. The LinQ comes in between, which is the role here to interoperate in both sense. Actually, the query is saying to pass a query, but remember, whenever to talk about retrieval, so there has to be a response. Front-end solution interface, back-end data sources, and the LinQ in between to help interconnect with those data sources. Those data sources, they are classified into 3 groups. We defined them just now. 3 groups. The data sources, they are classified into 3 groups. Collection of objects, databases, database servers, XML, let's say here files, mainly talk, structured view of data in an XML format. Those are the data sources. The LinQ has solutions to help all the front-end technologies, get connected to those data sources groups and retrieve and save both. Retrieve and save data from and to those data sources. I hope the concept is very clear. Yes. So, since we actually have a solution and we have already, now without this LinQ, without just continuing this topic and before seeing this technology, if I would have actually asked you to design a dynamic web application, you would have the technology fully to do so. What does it mean? You will create the front-end interface and you create the back-end source database, let's say, using the SQL Server as per the example we saw, and as per the technology we saw, and you will create the interface in between using the AIDO.NET, and fully you will develop all your technologies, your functionalities. And that's it. And if you want to add actually interactivities and effects, you'll use the JavaScript or the jQuery, for example, for fading and shading and things like that. So what is the need and what is the purpose behind adding and learning an extra technology, a full technology, to build up actually an interface in between, an interface to play the role of interactivity in between the front end and the back end solutions? There are advantages that cause us to think about this LinQ. There are positive facts that they push developers to think about using LinQ rather than other technologies. They would actually use the same programming language skills they have. If you are using the C#, you continue with the C#. If you are using the Visual Basic, you continue with the Visual Basic. F# or J#, you continue with your technology. You do not need to learn something new. It is less in the matter of the code memory. Means you not write much instructions and commands and statements whenever you compare this thing to other solutions, other programming languages solutions. actually the solution built using the LinQ, it is clear and human friendly in the sense of easy because we can read and understand it clearly. It does not need us to decompile or debug with a very engineering skills, very, let's say, tough and deep engineering skills. No, it is something actually that is clearly presented to the end user, and it can be read and understood, decompiled and debugged easily for the purpose of maintenance or let's say amelioration or things like that. Readable code, so it can be maintained easily. The LinQ by nature, it is a uniform syntax. Means actually it's a structured way how to write code. So thus it is a standardized way of querying. When we say that it's compatible with the C# and the VB at the same time, how it comes? As if I'm telling you, let's talk at the same time, Arabic and Chinese. They're two complete frameworks. If I talk Arabic, Chinese will not understand. If Chinese talk, Arabic people will not understand. But the LinQ will be is actually standardized to be utilized for both, within both, upon both C# and VB. It is actually, and other technologies also. It's not only, since they are actually supported by the Visual Studio framework, the .NET framework. Standardized way of querying multiple data sources. Remember the multiple data sources groups, we presented them, the XML files, the databases, and the collection of objects. Any questions on this level, please, before we continue?
No.
Okay, during the compile time also, it gives actually the solution or the way to check for errors during the compile time before the runtime. This is one of the advantages also. It has the intelligent activity to help developers build a better solution. The intelligent, let's say, capabilities are the feature of IntelliSense, the IntelliSense report. What does mean IntelliSense report? It helps the developers to have hints of help or to auto-complete contexts or to display information about some statements and some functionalities or namespaces or procedures, things like that. IntelliSense. The LinQ do have this capability. Means, as per the example, to make you understand more, what does mean IntelliSense report? The developer, the one when you create, when you are writing statements, you just start typing and it shows you help and hints and information to help you finish your statement. So IntelliSense, it is to help you not to write much, but to help you to choose solutions, to choose options from the given, let's say, list of, let's say, support. This interface, this LinQ interface, it is standardized and it is uniform and it is actually structured, but it has the capability to retrieve data from different shapes. What does it mean? What does it mean? Actually, remember, in database we talk about objects like tables. In XML, we talk about files that have actually a sort of structured nodes. Remember, we defined that last class. And in collection of objects, we may talk about classes as units, as nodes also are as units. They are complete different shapes. A unit in collection of objects, tables in databases, files and, let's say, nodes from within the XML files, completely different shapes. The LinQ has the capability to retrieve all those data with all the heterogeneous shapes, different shapes. So it has no problem. It has the capability to do so. If you have any doubt about what does it mean shape or data shape, you may raise your question, please.
No.
Okay, great. We continue. So some comparison in between the LinQ usage and the SQL usage to retrieve data from SQL database. SQL-based database, and here we talk about SQL Server. The SQL Server as a DBMS, database management system. Okay, the use of the SQL Server actually to check the capability of the SQL statement. What does it do? It has to be done during the runtime. The check-in using the SQL, it needs to be done in runtime. Yeah, the link to check the capability of the statement built using the link, it needs to be done in compile time. So if there is any error, it would be found before going to a development statement or state. Here, now it has to be published in order to see if there is any shortage. This can cause trouble using the SQL, because in runtime, users, they might find issues during the usage of the system. But here, no. The issues that will be actually explored and found during the test or the development phase, before publishing, before going to the developer state, before going in public. When in offline, the issues checkup will be done because of the LinQ technology. So there is an advantage. There is a safe data type. SQL is not actually protected as much as it has to be. Yeah, this LinQ, it has the capability to protect, actually, to be by writing secure code, something like that. Yeah. The list thinking, actually, it is vulnerable to SQL injections. List. Here not. So it is secured more than this SQL, the LinQ. The SQL statements, select, insert, update, and so on, does not support the IntelliSense, the technology to have developers choose from the lists of support. No, the LinQ does. The LinQ does have the support of the IntelliSense. It presents hints to developers to choose from the lists. Another advantage. The LinQ, it has the capability to debug, since it is actually in compile time. So it has the capability to debug the content. The SQL, no, not possible. The SQL does not have the capability to debug itself, debug the statements. There is no debug. It has to be run. It has to be run in runtime. It is a runtime only, so there is no debugging. There is no debugging for the SQL statements. So here we clearly see a list of advantages when we compare the LinQ to the SQL itself. Yes. Actually, there are developers to help us. There are developers and there are providers. Sorry, there are providers to help us use the LinQ to have the capability to interconnect with the backend sources. When we say that we are building, we are building a LinQ built using the LinQ, L-I-N-K, LinQ, Rabbit, LinQ, using the LinQ, L-I-N-Q, with the backend source. The backend is XML. Okay, I'm going to create another LinQ using the LinQ to a SQL data source. Okay, the third, I'm going to build another third LinQ using a LinQ to a collection of objects. Can we do that? Absolutely we can. How it is done using the same technology, the link, because of the providers, they actually have the capability to help the link to deal with all those data sources, and not only that, it can actually run all of them in just one solution. But means data sources, XML and SQL Server and collection of objects, and all of them they have the same solution, the same project. Yes, the link can support that. This is due to providers. This is due to the providers. Actually, there are different providers. But even though those providers, they are not to be, they actually have facilitated the use of the link to operate with the backend solution with the different architectures and even types. Syntax for, let's say, writing a query using the link, statement using the link, as per the title. Here we are having a source from a list of enumerators. Here is a template, or actually something that we can actually pass a query to. Also, it's a template. Means enumerators. We know the enumerators. You have to be aware of the enumerators. The enum data type is not new to us. Or something actually queryable means something that you can actually pass a query to. SQL select or let's say queryable. Any query you think of. Simply like that. So let's have a real example. The syntax, how it looks like. Let's have a real example. We have actually a table defined here, which is defined authors, which is an array of strings. The content is this list. See this full list here, those two lines. Hanselman, Scott, Epstein, Bill, and so on. All of them. Then they are values that they represent the population of this array, which is the authors. To populate any data, or let's say any component in the web solution, to populate any component in the web solution, using this author as a data source, we may use the link. Remember the syntax? We need actually data source from a list, something like that. Normally something like this, actually. Yes, let's see that. Here we are going to define a variable. This variable actually, it's a simple var, but it's in C#. The initialization of this variable, the initialization of this variable is a query, which is a link view here. We are going to use the authors, see the authors here, the authors. This is the same authors. This is user defined. From author, what is this author? It is in this authors. It means one of these element lists. But which one? We have a where clause. Where clause. We pass the check that this author value has or contains the S. Let's have a look. S in capital Scott. This is the one. This is one. Another one. Spachar. Yes, Spanchar, sorry. It's another one. So both of them are values that they can be actually utilized. Which one to be utilized? The first one, let's say the Hanselman Scott. For for this view, we are not going to display only one, but because we are having two, we are going to use the for each here for each to pass all the values we found in this example two. Scott, Spancha, both of them, they're going to be displayed. Label one will be actually concatenated, the plus equal, with the values that which author, the author, one by one, no more no less. I hope it's clear. If you have any questions you may raise, please. I'm going to take the attendance. I'll stop the recording also.